So those who are not able to attend today, we want to make sure it's recorded. We'll have a copy of the recording set up on the web announcement, the grant announcement on jobstartreach.ed. And so that will be available for anyone to go back to if you need to go back and listen to any of the information. So I'll start off really quick. My name is Kimber Burks. I am the contract analyst for Office of Child Care. I specifically support the grants that the Office of Child Care does. And then I pretty much collaborate with Emma Monge and Charlotte Tanner. They're specific Office of Child Care. They actually do have one more person on their team that recently started. Her name is Lauren Redmond. She's just out on maternity leave right now, so you'll probably see her back in January. And then we also have a couple people here from USDE, which is Jared Lisenby and Christina Herrera. And then we also have from our kind of counterpart with the Children's Center Utah. He's one of the, he's actually the lead coach for TCCU. That's Paul Mueller. And so they're joining us today. And so we really just kind of want to make sure we provide kind of an informational meeting for you. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Charlotte. She's going to go through a couple of the first few, just so you kind of know what this grant is about, and some of the important information to know about applying for the grant.
Hello, so I'm Charlotte Tanner. I'm on the school readiness team and I work at the Office of Child Care. And first things first, the High Quality School Readiness Grant was formerly known as Expanded Student Access Grant. So ESA, this is that grant. It just has a new name. So just making sure you're aware, this is ESA. It is now called the High Quality School Readiness, or HQSR grant. And so we just wanted to go over a few things real quick. The letter of intent is required as part of the application process, and that is a little different than some other years. So we just want to review that application process. So the letter of intent is due in November, and it has to be submitted by the deadline. It won't be accepted after. And then with that, there's a request for ECHRS observations. So for LEAs, there's a minimum of 3 class sessions per 500 students with 1 additional observation per every 500 students over 500. For private providers, so if you're a private childcare program, it's a minimum of 1/3 of classrooms in a program. If you just have 1 preschool classroom, that would just be 1 observation. If you are a very, very large childcare program and you have over 500 students, then the guidelines for LEAs would apply. And applicants will be submitting their completed ECHRS 3 observations if you have them. So if you have them, any that were done after January 1st of this year can be submitted. And then if multiple observations are submitted, the scores will be averaged for the application. And so for new applicants, some of you may have those. If you don't, then you will need to submit the request to get ECHRS observations. And the submission of the grant application will be in January.
Awesome. Thanks, Charlotte. There were a couple questions that came in through the chat, and I know sometimes if you're on another device other than like a laptop or a PC, it's hard to see those. So we'll just make sure that we answer any of those questions as we're going along. Someone did ask a question about the use of the curriculum that aligns with the early learning standards for instructions, which is reflected in the pre and mid assessments conducted to evaluate student academic progress. So the question they asked was, does this have to be a certified purchased curriculum? So I will let Charlotte or Emma or someone from the school readiness team answer that question, because you're probably better to do that than me.
See, I can address it unless you want. Yeah, anyway, so to summarize, the code requirement says it needs to be an evidence-based curriculum, which typically means it's a curriculum that has been vetted and analyzed to show evidence. Typically, that does mean that it needs to be a purchased curriculum. If there's a different one that has undergone rigorous evidence-based analysis, then that could be used. But typically, it does need to be one that is, that has been vetted and analyzed with the research statistics to show that it is evidence-based.
Thank you, Jared. I'm going to go ahead and ask this other question because I feel like it's kind of in line with that. Is there a list of approved curriculums online? If you are using your own in-house curriculum, is there a way to apply for the curriculum to be certified?
There is, with the State Board of Education, there is a database of recommended instructional materials, which are instructional materials and curricula that have been vetted by people in the field to show that they are appropriate and useful in and applicable to early education settings. You can find that it's on the Utah State Board of Education website. Well, it's in MIDAS, which is a tracking managing system at Utah State Board of Education. They do have the list. I do have a compilation list from that we could share. It's not an exhaustive list. There are other curricula, such as the Head Start website has a list of curricula that have been identified as being evidence-based that can be used. But if you want to have access to the list that we have, you can reach out, and I can probably put that in the responses, a link to that in the responses that we have on the question and answer website here too. But yes, there's
a link, Jared. I just don't know if it's the one you're looking for. I can drop the link into the chat if Kimber, if you want us to, or not.
Let's take a look at the link together, and then we can, like Jared mentioned, we'll put it in the Q&A if that's okay. But I think
Absolutely.
that's it. Thank you for getting that, Christina, and thank you, Jared, for mentioning to add it to the Q&A, because I think that will be helpful.
And as far as the question about if you have a curricula that you have developed on your own, you could submit that to the State Board of Education to go through the vetting process. And if you want to reach out to me, I can pass on the information of the person that does the vetting. That typically is done once a year. And so I'm not sure what the next round is for the curriculum vetting, whether it will be this spring or next fall. But yes, if you have questions, you can reach out on that. But also just a reminder that typically if it's one that you have developed on your own, it will not have gone through the rigorous vetting process, the statistical analysis to show that to provide that evidence-based factor.
Yes, perfect. And then the question after that, I think also is relatable. You have to be running that curriculum currently. Which, yes, in order to be, considered for this grant, you have to have something in place that you're currently using, not something that you're planning. Another question came up asking, is there a template for the letter of intent? If not, what needs to be in the letter? So the letter of intent is actually an Adobe web form. We've provided a link to that web form that you'll complete. It's in the web posting on jobs.utah.gov. There's also an RFGA packet attached to that web posting. There's also a link to the Adobe web form for the letter of intent in that packet as well. So there's a couple different places you can locate that. I switched back to this slide because someone asked a question about the ECHRs. How far back can the ECHRs observations be? So you have to use observations that occurred after January 1st, 2024. So if you had an observation on January 2nd this year, you are welcome to use that. It just can't be anything before January 1st this year. Okay. I don't see any additional questions. So I'll go ahead and move forward. So this is just kind of some dates and deadlines to be made aware of. As Charlotte mentioned, the letter of intent is currently available. That opened on Friday. We are keeping that open for 2 weeks. So that deadline is Friday, November 2nd. Any letter of intents with the correct attachments have to be submitted before 5 o'clock. We cannot accept late submissions. So it's one of those things where we have to have a letter of intent that's completed in order for you to then be able to submit an application, which happens in January. We do not allow you to submit an application if the letter of intent is not submitted. There might be times where you thought that you were submitting something that was an attachment to the letter of intent. If I end up reaching out to you to let you know, like, hey, this didn't come through, or it was blank, or we need additional information, you're welcome to email that information to me. Just know that you still have the same time frame. That information needs to be back to me by that deadline. So we do give you a heads up if there's something missing that we need to still collect from you. Starting now until probably the end of March, if your program still needs an efforts 3 observation, so whether that's you've had a couple of them done, but because of your program size, you still need 1 or 2 more, you would request that as part of the letter of intent. So then we would kind of put you on a spreadsheet, get that ready, and then complete that and announce observations sometime between now and March. And then once we close the letter of intent, start doing those echoes observations, we will open up the actual grant application, which will be available in January. Those of you who successfully submit a letter of intent will receive that information by email. So all of the application documents, the web form link for the application, and instructions on completing the application will be emailed to you. And then you will have until January 31st to complete the application part of it. So even though we're kind of providing this for you as like a letter of intent kind of informational meeting, we do still plan on holding kind of a pre-proposal meeting for the actual application itself, so that as you're kind of looking through the documents, we have provided samples of what the application looks like in that RFJ packet now that's on the website, on that web hosting. So you're welcome to look at that. That way, if you have questions as you're getting ready to submit the application, there will be time in January for you to be able to ask those questions and kind of have the virtual meeting where we can go through what that's going to look like. So there's another opportunity for that. Okay, so what I'd like to go through now is just kind of go over some information and screenshots regarding the letter of intent. So I want to make sure that people understand that you're clicking on a link. It's going to take you to Adobe, where you will then be, typing in information, selecting, either observation documents to attach to the letter of intent, or if you need to request an records observation, we have provided an Excel spreadsheet for you, which is also one of the links on the web announcement on jobs.utah.gov. So you can download that, save it, fill it out, and then that would be something that you would also attach to the letter of intent that you're completing. So as far as the Adobe web form goes, depending on like what type of provider you are, what you need as far as like, hey, I have records observations, I don't, and I need one. There will be fillable fields for you to be able to complete, again, depending on what it is you'll need to actually submit. So when you first pull up the web form application, there is a place where you can actually save the web form so that you can go back to it. So this is kind of a newer feature that we've had in the last year or two. So it's going to kind of give you this box to complete your information. You enter your first name, last name, the email that you want the application to go to, We've kind of named the form for you, so you don't have to change that if you don't want to. You can just leave it as is. If it's easier for you to remember something different, you're welcome to change it, but again, you don't have to because it's already kind of pre-input in there for you. And then once you save that, it's going to let you know that a link has been sent to that email address that you've entered in there. So from here on out, you'll be able to use that link to come back to the letter of intent. So if you pull it up and you save it and you start entering information on it and an emergency happens or you get called to help in a classroom or there's a meeting you have to run to, you can shut it down and then just use that same link in the email that you were provided to come right back to where you left off. So you'll kind of get this email here where it says that you can use the link to continue filling out the letter of intent. So just kind of click on that in the email, and then it should pull you right back up to the Adobe web form, and you can pick up right where you left off. So it should be saving that information for you. Kind of need this a little bigger so you can see it. So it saves that information for you. And then, like I said, any information that you put in there should have saved, and you can pick up right where you left off. So kind of a nice feature that they've done for us in the last year or two. So it also kind of has this little resume button. So if you need to click, sometimes depending on the what you're using, if you're using your tablet or something, it might want you to click on that resume button so that you can continue filling in pretty well. Okay, I'm going to let Emma talk a little bit more about the ECHRS 3 observation requests, just so she can provide you with the most accurate information about that.
Thanks, Kimber. Hi, everyone. Good to see you all. My name is Emma Monch. I work at the Office of Childcare and glad to have you here today. So this section of the letter of intent, we would like to know the hours that you provide service. So whether it's AM, whether it's PM, whether it's full day care or extended care, we would like to know the hours that you start and then the hours that you end. This gives us a really nice snapshot of knowing when to come and visit, when to observe. It also provides a nice snapshot for next school year if you make it onto the grant. But it also gives you an opportunity in this lower section. I think you need to go to the next slide if that's all right. Yeah, thanks, Kimber. In this lower section where it says, what is the best time for you to observe? That's really helpful for us so that we know when to come and observe. And it's also helpful to know like when you have nap time, because obviously that's not the best. We can't pull the most data from nap time. And so the most time that you're spending time with your kids and you have a full routine, we would like to know that time. So just let us know when you would like us to come and we can plan on visiting during that time and observing. It is a 3-hour observation. So we will be there for the full 3 hours. Obviously, unless your program runs at 2 hours or 2.5 hours, we'll be there during that session of time. Okay, the next piece of this is the section where you are filling out the section if you have not already had an official ECHRS 3 completed. CCQS does administer those ECHRS 3 observations, so they can be used for this piece. So if you have been, if you've had your observations, we don't want to put your teachers through having an observation again. We don't want to have to put you through that. So if you've had an ECHRS 3 observation or a few ECHRS 3 observations from CCQS, you know, let us know, because and you can upload those observations and we can use those as long as they are dated after January 1st, 2024. So we do that look back. And then if you do not have an official ECHAS 3 observation, this is where you're going to give us more information about your program. And we have some policies around these observations, but we will arrive 15 minutes prior to the observation. And we'll be looking at your blackout date spreadsheet that you will attach a little further down. So we want to get a good idea of how many classrooms you have, and then how many students you have. And based on that, on your response, we'll know how many observations that we need to come and administer. So that's where you'll put your total number of classrooms, your total enrollment of preschool, and that then alerts us to tell us how many observations we need. And just underneath here, at the bottom, you will see that this section has more options for you to fill out. I think we have 6 ways to upload your ECHAS 3 observations. So I think that's the max amount. Do we have 6 in there, Kimber? I think it's up to 6 or 7 observations that you can upload for ECHAS 3.
Total. So like the first one is at least required if you indicate that you do have one, and then you can upload it up to 6 more. So 7 total.
Great. And yeah, so current grantees do not need to fill out blackout date spreadsheets. So you do not need to know that. We already have that data. We have those observations booked for the school year. Anybody new that needs an observation, we do need you to fill out that blackout date spreadsheet, which is, I think, on the next slide. And Kimber, I don't know if you're going to be chatting about that, or do you want me to chat a little bit about it?
I was actually going to see if I could pull up are you talking about the spreadsheet right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just pulled it up, so it's going to, so you can see it.
Thank you. So this spreadsheet is, we want to know the name of your program, the name of your classroom. So if you have if you've named your classrooms, we would like to know the name of those. That's helpful for us to identify if you have more than one classroom. You can even put classroom 1, 2, 3, and 4 if you don't have names, but it's helpful for us to know if we're going to a location and you have multiple classrooms. When we randomly select the classrooms, we will know exactly which classroom we're supposed to come and visit. And again, on there, you're putting whether you're a full, half day, or both. You're providing your window of time within those sessions, the days of sessions that so whether it's Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday, that's good for us to know because we don't want to come on a Friday if you're not in session and you're just having professional developments that day. And then we want to know your location, your street address, as well as the administrator of the program. So you can give up to 2 names. And so you would give the name, the email addresses of 2 people, the telephone numbers. And the reason why we ask for 2 names is if when we're coming to visit your location, we call you 30 minutes before the observation is going to occur. So it's 15 minutes because we arrive 15 minutes early. But if your class starts at 8 o'clock, we're going to call you at 7:30. And if Miss Potato Head does not pick up, then we will call Bo Peep instead. And at that point, that's kind of the max amount of people that we'll call. But we will leave a message, and we'll look for your call if you call us back, or your text messages. And at that point, you can let the teacher know, hey, you're going to be observed today. So that's something you want to do. Let your teachers know if you're applying for this. Let your teachers know that they're going to have unannounced ECHAS 3 observations. And then you call your teacher, let them know. If your lead teacher is out that day, you can let us know and we can pick potentially another location to go and visit. But if your assistant is out and you have a substitute, we would still come and do an observation. It's really if the lead teacher is out at that point. So please leave those 2 contacts so that we can try to communicate and contact you when we come to observe. We also like to know the lead teacher's name, as well as obviously the classroom that they teach in. So if you could put the lead teacher's name, the number of years that teacher has been teaching in preschool, and then any blackouts that you would like to provide. And this is an important piece because the amount of times we've gone to programs and called and they've said, oh, we're having a party today, but that was not on the blackout dates spreadsheet. So just any parties that you're having, any celebrations, any days that you know you're not going to be following like your regular routine, just let us know so that we're not crashing your party. We love parties, believe me, we do, but we don't want to come and crash your party. It's not fun to have, you know, a Valentine's Day party and have observers there. So anything else that the team wants to add?
There was a question that was asked. Do you use the number of years the teacher has been teaching? Does that impact if they are charging for an observation?
And do you want me to? Yeah, I can respond to this. The short answer is no, it doesn't impact if they're chosen for an observation. But there are cases where we might, if we look at a program and see that, there are primarily people who have taught for a very short amount of time, that might impact our decision. But it's just as likely to be selected if it's a teacher that's been there a long time versus a short amount of time. But we do take that into consideration when we're looking at all the observation classrooms that are selected for that program. There might be a case where we would swap out one of the primary observation lists with a secondary, like a backup class, just to make sure that it's fair. But yes, all classrooms are equally likely to be selected. It's a complete random selection.
Awesome, thank you for answering that. And then someone asked about if they already have an observation, do we still need them to fill out the time grid on page 3? So I'm assuming that they're referring to this. And the question is yes. Part of the reason we're doing that, so like if you are a provider who already has observations and so you've selected yes, that you have observations and you're attaching those observations, you're not filling out an efforts 3 observation request form. So we still want to be able to capture this information for all applicants, whether it be through this or through the unannounced observation request form. So that's why there is kind of at least one required field on this graph. So we do want you to provide the times that you are in session for your program. Okay. If there's any other questions about that, let us know. And then Emma, if there was anything else you wanted to just kind of review about that.
Yeah, I think just really provide those blackout dates. Anything that you can think of, a holiday, anything close to a holiday that you think might not be a good time, any adjustments. If you have a day of the week where the librarian comes down and the kids spend an hour in the library, maybe tell us that, any day that might be a little bit off, that doesn't function in the way that every other day does. We do ask that if you have coaches and the coach is scheduled to be there that day, that the coach pick another location. We just ask that the coach not be in the room during that time, because the coach isn't there every single day. So we want to make sure and be able to capture what the day in the school life is for those teachers that are typically there in the classroom. If there is any SPED teachers or specialist teachers that do come in and drop by, that they are perfectly fine to be there. If kids have IEPs and they need to be removed from the class to do an activity, completely fine. So I don't know if anybody else wanted to add to that, but just a little bit of context there, just so you're aware.
So I just wanted to add in that after you submit the list of classrooms and the blackout dates, if something comes up before the observations are complete, so for example, if some medical situation comes up that a lead teacher is going to need to be out for surgery and recovery, for instance, please reach out to us and let us know as soon as possible so that we can make those that update on our list. So just remember that as things change after you submit this, please reach out by email to let us know if any changes to the blackout list happens.
Definitely helpful to know. And this was kind of part of a question that was asked in the chat. And again, I did answer it, but I want to make sure everybody understands. So if you have indicated that you do have observations for your current grantee and you have had observations that you're going to be submitting, this part of the this section, these fields are not going to show up. So we're only asking these questions to be answered if you've indicated that you do not have an observation. These will show up and be required for you to complete, as well as this will show up as a required field. And you'll know it's required because it has this little red asterisk on it. So just so you're aware of that. There might be some fields that are either blank or grayed out, and it's because based on how you're answering the questions, they're either going to show up and be required, or they're going to be grayed out and you don't have to worry about filling that part out. So just so you're aware of that. Okay. How many ECHR scores are we submitting if we have been observed in 2024? So Emma, I'm going to let you answer that one, but I'm also going to go back to this one of these initial, I'm going to go back to this one because I think this has that information that you're looking for.
Thank you, Kimber. Yeah, that's exactly it. And Melissa, so it just depends on how many classrooms you plan on applying for this multi-year grant. And so based on this policy, we would look at the number of classrooms that you have and get an average from those classrooms.
Okay. Any other questions about the fields on the letter of intent or the ECHR observations, what's required? Filling out the unannounced ECHR observation request form. I'm just going to go through a few other things on here before we kind of start to wrap up. So I kind of mentioned this as part of the last couple slides. So when you are filling out this letter of intent, there are some fields that you'll know are required because they have that red asterisk on it. Once you get down to the bottom and you fill out what you think you need to fill out, as long as you have completed all the required fields, you should see this blue submit button here on the bottom of the web form. So that's kind of how you know that you've completed everything that's part of a required field. You've attached what you've needed to attach based on how you've answered the questions. I will say again, depending on the type of device that you're using, Specifically, like if you're using like an iPad or a tablet, sometimes you have to kind of like scroll up on the view to be able to see this. So it could be there, you just might not be able to see it. If for some reason you scroll all the way to the bottom and you can't see it, that most likely means that there's still a required field that just hasn't been completed yet. So you'll want to kind of go back and just make sure everything that is required has been filled. So then once you see this, you're able to submit it. You're going to get an email. So you'll be sent, you know, basically this, hey, thank you for filling this out. It also attaches a PDF of the letter of intent that you filled out, and then any of the attachments that you provided. So that's kind of your opportunity to double check what you've submitted and make sure that you submitted the letter of intent correctly with the required information. If you indicated that you have Becker's observations, that you've attached the correct reports. If you don't have observations and you needed to request one, double checking that observation request form. I will say the most common thing I find with that is the person fills it out, downloads it from the web format, or sorry, the web announcement, starts to fill it out, and maybe forgets to save it. And so, like, they think that they've saved it to their laptop, so they go to upload it. When I receive it, it's blank. So just make sure that you're filling it out, you're saving it to like your desktop or wherever you're typically saving those documents, so that when you go to attach it, it has that information filled out on it. So again, that's kind of a good way for you to just double check anything. If you recognize like, oh shoot, I put the wrong thing on there, you can email that. Like I mentioned, you can reach out and say, hey, I thought that I attached this Becker's observation, it was the wrong one, here's the correct one. And like I said, you have until the deadline, you have until the 5 o'clock on the 22nd to do that. So just make sure you're double checking that work. I also receive an email with the same information. So that's how I'm, you know, pulling the information that you're submitting. I typically will reach out to you and just kind of let you know, like, hey, we did receive this. It looks like the attachments, you know, were provided and uploaded correctly. Or if I look at it and I'm like, oh, it looks like this is missing or it's blank, I do try to let you know so that you have the time to correct it if you need to. So you will receive that. And then, like I said, once this is all submitted and we have all of the correct information from you, we will be sending you an email in January with the application information so that you have what you need to be able to like officially apply for the grant. So right now we're just kind of in the process of figuring out who has Becker's observations that's planning on applying, who needs those observations, you know, if they want to apply. Do know that there is a big possibility that you could apply for the grant in January, but still not have an observation, and that's totally okay. You can still apply, just know that, you know, because of how many observations the team needs to do, yours might not come until, you know, after January. So just keep that in mind. You're okay. You can still apply if you need to. There's a couple questions in the chat I just want to make sure that we get to. If we're still in the process of finding a lead teacher for one of our running preschool classrooms, will that impact our opportunity to be considered for the grant? Emma or someone from the team, do you want to answer that?
So that's a good question. I think I have some follow-up questions for you. And so maybe we could meet or stay on the call and ask you some follow-up questions. I think on the blackout date spreadsheet, you could let us know the situation and say, we're still looking for a lead teacher. But I guess one of my follow-up questions is are you, how is that classroom functioning now? Are the kids being split into other classrooms until the teacher has been found, or until you found a lead teacher? And are you a brand new location and just kind of up and running, and so you're still trying to find those teachers? how many classrooms do you currently have? So I've kind of some follow-up questions around that. So would you be willing to kind of closer to the end of the meeting, just chat about a couple of things? We could probably go to the next one. So Katia asked, is there a minimal ECAS 3 score to qualify for the grant? The grant does, so the application does have points that goes towards the ECAS 3, and those minimum scores are an average of an overall score of 3.67, an average of an overall score of a 4 in language and literacy, and an average of an overall an average score of interactions. So you can still make I believe you could still make the minimum threshold without those points. It's going to bring your score lower if you're scoring below those averages, but we do average out those classrooms. So if some classrooms score a little bit lower and some are scoring a little bit higher, that could potentially bring up your overall average. Tanya asked, if we do not currently own an evidence-based curriculum but plan to purchase one prior to January and implement, would we still qualify? That's a good question. I think that they're in the application, there's quite a long narrative around your curriculum and language and literacy and how you're implementing those pieces, and I think one focuses particularly on core standards. So in those areas, you could address the ways in which you would plan to do that. In the rubric, you may score lower because you're not meeting those expectations at that point, but it doesn't mean to say that you can't get points in other areas. So you could score a little bit, you could be scoring in those other areas, but maybe not get as many points. With it being an expansion grant, the idea is that you're meeting all of those elements of high quality. So I think, that the goal is that you are meeting those expectations, but it doesn't mean to say that you can't apply. You could still apply and just let the scorers, or not let the scorers, but respond in a way where you will be addressing those pieces. And did anybody else want to respond to that question?
Yeah, just agreeing with that a big part would be in the narrative as you're discussing the evidence-based curriculum. If you're making a change, this would be a good place to say, the reasons why you're making the change and how the change will help add to the effectiveness of the curriculum and the instruction that you use. Again, these will be reviewed by outside grant reviewers who are experts in the field here. And, so if they were able to review that, see your narrative and recognize that the change, the current change in curricula, if that's what your program is doing, they would take that into consideration as they're doing scoring.
Thanks, Jared. Johnny asked, if our program is scheduled to be observed this month, or is there a way we can let you know and submit that observation report after the 22nd if we don't get the report before then? Yes, you can do that. So then we don't have to come and do multiple observations. So submit the letter of intent. You need to submit the letter of intent, Johnny. But you can submit those reports later on. And just get them submitted to Kimber, and then I think we have Charlotte and Lauren's name on there, and we can get that documented that you don't need to come and do additional observations. It says here, where do we go again for the list of evidence-based curriculum? We're going to post those links to the Q&A. So we don't have them posted right now, but we will post them and get them up within the next 24 hours. Ruby is asking, is this a multi-year grant? Yes, we do have this. And Kimber's showing us the Q&A right now. This, by the way, this Q&A is something that you want to keep on coming back to. This is live. Every time a question comes in, we try to get it posted within a few hours, but we say, I think 24 hours, but we obviously on the weekends, it's going to be longer than that, but this is ongoing. So keep on coming back to this Q&A because new questions are going to be updated as the time progresses. So any questions that pop up, it will be good to come here, and it might not be a question that you've thought of, or it might spark another question. So keep coming back to this Q&A. And so Rubia, yes, the plan is to have this grant as a multi-year grant so that grantees don't have to continue to apply every single year. We understand that it's a really large process to have to do that every single year. So it is a multi-year grant, and in legislation, there's language in there in the SB 220 that really kind of talks through it being a multi-year grant. So any other questions that I missed?
There was a question about, can you give us more grant details? Is it multi-year funding, notification timeline? So somebody else did ask a question about multi-year. Yes, this has turned into a multi-year grant, so it will run from 2025 to 2028. I did also encourage, and I posted a link in the chat to the RFJ packet, because that's going to provide a lot of answers to the questions that you're asking. Funding is very dependent on your program. There isn't this isn't a grant where it's a set amount and it's the same amount for every single program. It varies. Typically, and I think most people know this with the legislative session, we've been getting about 12 million to run the program. So it really just depends on how many people are awarded, what their cost per child is, those types of things. And we'll be able to kind of talk about more of that stuff in the pre-proposal meeting once the application goes live in January. So, but I would encourage you to look through that packet because it does have a lot of the kind of dates and deadlines and the timeline for this grant itself. Another question was asked, our school district will be splitting in July of 2027. Will that affect our ability to receive the multi-year grant? I'm going to let someone else answer that, but I don't have any concern.
Lindsay, will this split affect the number of eligible students that you'll have?
So our school district will be splitting into 3 separate districts. So Alpine School District won't exist anymore. It will be 3 new school districts. And so, but we are still, as far as I understand, we're still planning on having our program until that split happens. And we have, a large number of students who are eligible for the grant. And so I'm just curious, where it's turning into a 3-year grant, would that be an issue for us to apply while our school district is still intact for the next 2 school years?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question, interesting situation that we haven't come across in the past. I would anticipate that what will happen is that as the school district splits into 3 new districts, that there will be a way that we can work with the 3 new districts to continue that grant. But there are, as I said, this is a new territory. I'm sure it's new territory for all of you as you're preparing for this split. I would recommend that you still submit it as a 3-year grant, and then as it comes up to the time when the split happens, we can look very carefully at how to divide that, the grant across the 3 new school districts. Kimber or Emma, if you have other thoughts, well, there's a lot of things we'll have to look into and discuss, but I anticipate that there will be a way that we can work this.
Yeah, I would say go ahead and apply, and we can chat about it more down the road and see what the possibilities are. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. And this next question also kind of aligns with kind of a similar question. So the multi-year grant from 2025 to 2028, does that mean there will be no new applicants during that time frame? And that's correct. So where this is, because it is kind of a finite amount of money, those who are awarded the grant will be on the grant for 3 years. And then once that cycle ends, we would open it up again. So at this point, instead of applying every year, you're able to apply every 3 years. So
Unless there is a lot of money that comes through.
yeah. I'm thinking like worst case scenario, but
Yeah. If the money changes and there's an increase in funds, then we would love to open this back up. Yeah.
Melissa, did you have a question?
I did, thank you. That page, I was trying to screenshot a lot of these because that's how my brain works. The questions you've been writing down, it was on 6 through 10. Can you scroll back up so I can see 1 through 5, please?
So I'll actually just provide you the link. I'll put that, I did put it in once, but I'll do it again just so it's fresh in the feed.
Thank
can
you.
It's that right here. And you can use that link to pull it at any time, like Emma mentioned. You guys can't, physically type your questions in there, but you're welcome to go to it any time and look at the questions that have been asked. So you're able to pull that up. So that will be available until the 21st. We close it so that, once the letter of intent has expired, once the 22nd hits, and that's the deadline, we do close the questions. And then for those who do successfully submit a letter of intent, when the application opens up again, we will reopen that question and answer so that as questions are coming in about the application, you can go there again as well and kind of repeat that. So hopefully that helps a little bit so you don't have to screenshot things every 2 seconds. So. Okay, Tara. She's asking to explain what it means when it says organizations receiving the Becoming High Quality Grant Funds, or Becoming High Quality Grant Funds during the 2025-26 school year are not eligible. So if you are a program who is currently on the Becoming High Quality Grant, if you are, let's just say, for example, if you're in your 2nd year of the grant and you'll be receiving your 3rd year of the grant this next year, you wouldn't be able to get both. So if in the circumstance, if within these next, couple months, your program, while you're on Becoming, you attain high quality and you're eligible to apply for the expanded student access, high quality school readiness grant, you can do that. You just can't apply for it while you're still receiving Becoming. I want to say there's a couple of programs that applies to. So if you're not Becoming right now, you don't have to worry about it.
You can still apply for ESA because if you get on, you can transition on to ESA. We would just need to terminate your Becoming High Quality contract. You can't be on both, like Kimber mentioned. You can't have Becoming for some classrooms and ESA for other classrooms. So you can certainly apply and see where that takes you, and then we'd just terminate the Becoming High Quality contract.
Yeah. Thank you for explaining that, Emma. So we have just less than a minute left, so I want to make sure that we are respectful of everyone's time. So we'll kind of wrap up a little bit, but just know that if you do have any additional questions, you're welcome to submit those, through the Google submission form. So kind of, a lot of people like to know, okay, we attended this meeting, what's next? For those of you who are planning on submitting a letter of intent but you need an observation, make sure you're submitting that observation request form. Those will be conducted for the programs who need them. Those programs who successfully submit a letter of intent, you'll be sent an email in January that contains all of the documents that we provide for you to fill out as part of the application process, in addition to the link or the web form of the application. There will be documents that you'll need to provide, which is indicated in the RFG packet that we provided as part of the web announcement. We will have a bidders, we called a bidders meeting and pre-proposal meeting specifically for the application, what that looks like, questions you have about submitting that in January. I do believe that the date and time of that is also in the RFGA packet. We also provide it in that email once you receive that in January. So like I said, any questions that you have, like I said, you'll use the Google web form to submit, your email, name, organization that you're asking the question for, and then what your question is. If you have lots of questions, I do encourage you to, you're welcome to submit them all at one time. It does help us keep track of them a little bit if you submit them separately, so you can submit, multiple Google submissions at one time if you need to. So feel free to do that. Other than that, I think we're pretty much at the end. So keep checking back on that question and answer document. Submit any additional questions that you have through the Google form. I do have my email along with Charlotte and Lauren. She'll be back in January, so you're welcome to reach out to us if you have additional questions that you have noticed haven't been answered on that question and answer sheet. So, okay. And Emma's putting in the deadline so that you remember that. Make sure you're getting in your letter of intent and any applicable attachments by the 22nd. Thank you for coming today. We hope this was helpful for you. And we're also hoping to see all of you back in January when you are able to apply. So thanks for coming today. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Stay warm, stay dry. Hopefully it's not snowing on you. We'll see you later. Thank you.
Thank you. Ali, did you want to stay behind and just chat for a sec?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to keep it on recording just because any questions that pop up, everybody needs to have access to that. So we'll keep on recording if that's okay.
Totally fine.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
So you mentioned that one of your classrooms doesn't have a lead teacher.
Yeah, so I realized I didn't phrase my question very great. We've been running for years now, but we just had a teacher finish her 2 weeks, and we're still in the process of finding her replacement. So we currently have our school age teacher in there in the mornings, and then when the school children get back, we have floaters in there. And so, I mean, the hope is we'll have a teacher, right? But we currently just don't. We just don't right now. And so I just want to know or make sure, I guess, that we're still okay to move forward with applying, even though we are missing an important component, I guess.
What are your thoughts, everyone? I was thinking you could add that information. We do randomly select the classrooms, but what is everyone thinking?
Okay, so I guess things are still up in the air. I was just going to ask, what is the time frame for having a permanent teacher in the class? If it's the letter of intent is the 22nd of this month, and then we'll most likely start the observations extra observations in December. Because I anticipate yes, and so it might not be an issue. Do you have an idea of when the new teacher will be in place?
We are taking as many interviews as possible right now and just trying to find that perfect fit. So I don't necessarily have a time frame, but as soon as possible is really idealistic for not just for this, but just for us in general. So
Yeah, definitely. I would say it would still be worth it to apply for the grant. And keep our fingers crossed that you have somebody in place as soon as possible. Yeah.
And Ali, you can put on the blackout date spreadsheet that currently you're looking to fill the lead teacher position where it says the lead teacher's name. And then you would, as soon as you hire a teacher, you just let us know so that we can add in that teacher's name to the your blackout date spreadsheet.
okay.
Does that help to answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because like we have 3 rooms, 3 pre-K rooms. One has their lead teacher, one is not currently open, and then one we're looking for a teacher but has the kids in it. So I just wanted to make sure we were good. So yeah, that answers my question.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ali.
Yeah, thank you everybody.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too, bye.
Bye. Katya, how are you? Oh, you're on mute.
Hi, nice to see you. Thank you. I had a question about one of my locations, which is part of SK Express Learning, Kearns and Redwood. They're together, 2 locations. Kearns locations will be moving by March or April next year into a different location in West Valley. In this location, we might have 3 preschool classrooms, 2 that are coming from the location in Kearns, and one that is already in West Valley. In this case, do I need to do anything different or just apply and add the new location in my application?
Sorry, when is the new location happening?
We're looking to move in March or April. So for next year, they will be in June in the new location.
Oh, got it. Okay. I think you can add that. I know we ask you to put your address. I think that you can just add that in the notes to say that you're going to be moving location. Will the tax ID number be different or the same?
It will be the same.
The same. Okay. Do you, with the additional classrooms, or will there be an extra classroom? If there's extra classrooms, will you be, on this application, will you be proposing more students based on that move?
Well, 2 of those classrooms will be moving into the new location. And we do have in the new classroom, we really have no more than 10 kids. The classroom that actually is in West Valley. So I'm not sure if we're going to combine and just have 2 classrooms. We might be able to open a 3rd classroom now in the new location. But there have all the the high quality that we're doing, the trainings and everything. It's in share already with a teacher, with a CDA. So, and the other 2 teachers will be moving also with their kids.
The only issue I can see for that, adding on a new classroom, is that we look at your current historical costs. And so that won't include the expenses for your new classroom. And so the cost per child would be based on the classrooms that you have currently. Okay. So even if you could open up new spaces for more kids, the grant does not have additional costs for this year. So we wouldn't be paying for the extra furniture. You could certainly, so we would really be looking at those, historical costs to determine a cost per child. And then, there'd be a COLA. We don't know how much that COLA will be, but there'd be a COLA years 2 and years 3.
Okay.
But just so you're aware of that piece.
Okay. Yeah. The classroom and the furniture we already furnished the classroom is there. So we won't need funds to open the classroom.
Okay.
And the other 2 classrooms are coming, we're already furniture. So yeah, we won't need funds for opening a new classroom. It's just will be an existing classroom that we're gonna add to the grant.
Got it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, it's not going to be a problem if it's the same tax ID number in different locations. So
Okay.
yeah. And you can even put your current one and then let us know once you've moved so that we have that information. So
Okay, yes. Perfect.
I have to hop off because I have a call. But I don't I'm sorry I'm gonna miss. Have a good day, Katia, and I'm sorry I'm gonna miss
Nice to see
your question. Your title is Little Seed, so I'm not sure what your name is, but everybody here can help to answer your question. Okay.